Most dogs are happy when they hear the word walk, but Uka has a very different reaction when he hears the sound of a paraglider being prepared. The moment the equipment comes out, he becomes completely focused. His ears rise, his tail starts moving, and he stays close as if he's asking one simple question: are we going up today? I never planned on taking my dog into the sky. Flying had always been something personal to me, a place where I could escape everything on the ground and feel completely free. Uka was my companion in almost every other part of my life, but I had never imagined those two worlds would become one. Then one day, while I was getting ready for a flight, Uka came running over and stood directly in front of me. He watched every movement with incredible curiosity. I laughed and asked him if he wanted to come with me. I was only joking, but Uka didn't look like he was joking. That moment stayed in my mind. I started wondering what it would be like to experience a flight together. Of course, loving your dog isn't enough to make something like that safe. If Uka was ever going to fly with me, everything had to be carefully planned. So I started with the smallest steps. I designed a harness specifically for him, making sure he would be comfortable and securely supported. But before even thinking about leaving the ground, I needed Uka to become familiar with everything involved. We spent time on the hills with the glider completely grounded. At first, Uka didn't understand what I was doing. He would sit nearby and watch while I unfolded the fabric, checked the lines, and moved around the equipment. Sometimes he'd sniff everything. Other times he'd simply lie beside me and observe. Then something changed. Whenever I started preparing the glider, Uka began following me. Eventually, he started running toward me whenever he saw it coming. He wasn't being forced to participate. He was choosing to be there. That was the most important thing. I wanted this to be something Uka genuinely enjoyed, not something he simply tolerated because he trusted me. So we waited. Days became weeks, and weeks became months. We practiced on the ground, built familiarity, and never rushed the process. There was no reason to turn one beautiful idea into something dangerous just because we were excited. Then, finally, the right day arrived. The weather was calm, the sky was clear, and the wind conditions were suitable for the flight we'd been preparing for. We traveled toward the Alps with all our equipment packed carefully, and Uka came along beside me. During the climb, he seemed unusually excited. He ran ahead, came back, explored the trail, and then raced forward again. It was almost as if he understood that we weren't simply going for another walk. When we reached the launch point, everything became quiet. I checked the equipment one more time. I made sure Uka was securely positioned and comfortable. There was no room for excitement to replace concentration. Then we moved toward the edge. For one brief moment, everything on the ground disappeared behind us, and suddenly we were flying. I expected Uka to react with excitement. Maybe I thought he'd become restless or nervous once we were actually in the air. Instead, he became incredibly calm. He stayed close to me, looking out over the mountains as the wind moved around us. There was no panic, no struggle, no attempt to escape. Just a quiet dog experiencing something completely new. I remember looking at him and realizing how strange and beautiful the moment was. I had spent years thinking of flying as my own escape, but up there, with Uka beside me, it felt completely different. I wasn't escaping from anything. I was sharing something. The mountains stretched endlessly beneath us. The wind carried us forward, and Uka simply watched the world below. For those few minutes, there was nothing complicated about life. There was just the two of us, moving through the sky together. When we finally landed, Uka was tired but completely content. Before we had even time to do much else, he came close, gave me a few enthusiastic licks, and then happily climbed into the car. It was almost funny how normal he made the whole experience seem, but for me, it was anything but ordinary. Uka has always reminded me that happiness doesn't have to be complicated. He loves running through open spaces, discovering new places, feeling the wind, and turning ordinary moments into adventures. And somehow, by giving him the freedom to experience the world, he gave me something even more valuable in return. He reminded me that the best memories aren't always the ones we plan perfectly. Sometimes they're the moments when a friend looks at you with complete trust, follows you into something new, and makes you realize that the journey is much better when you don't have to experience it alone. Uka isn't just my dog. He's my adventure partner, my closest friend, and one of the reasons I look at freedom a little differently today. If Uka's incredible journey touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable animal stories.